It's Way Up with Angela Yee, and I'm excited to have these two guests joining us today. So we have Jocelynne Rainey here, the CEO of Brooklyn Org, and Jelani Anglin, who is also the CEO and co-founder of Good Call. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
To Way Up with Angela Yee, and we're going to get into all of the details of this important work that you both are doing. So first, Jocelynne, tell us about Brooklyn Org and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Brooklyn Org is a foundation. We are focused on the best borough in the city, Brooklyn.
I know that's right.
I know you're a Brooklyn girl as
you
well.
know it.
And, we're a foundation. We're a philanthropy, but we're really thinking about how we could do philanthropy different. We're trying to bring everyone to the table, making sure that everyone feels like they can do something to help their neighbors. We're trying to do it in a way that it is from the bottom up instead of from the top down, and making sure that we're getting funding to those nonprofits like Good Call that are doing the work on the ground that really changes lives. And I just want to share that all of our grant making is participatory, which means that our Brooklyn community makes the decisions on where the money goes, because we believe that the people who are on the ground, they know what's needed more than we do.
No, you're absolutely right. And I want to say that right now in particular, it's so important for us to make sure that we take care of each other.
Right.
And I know people can be very discouraged by what's going on in politics, by, waiting for government officials to do things. But sometimes we have to be the ones that really make it happen.
Yep, I agree.
And Jelani, Good Call. All
Yes.
right, let's discuss this, because I know you founded this company in 2016.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Good Call is a tech hybrid, a Black-led, community-centered tech hybrid working to dismantle the system of mass incarceration by creating better access to legal support. You can call our hotline and be connected to an attorney. That attorney will invoke your rights, tell the police not to question you, and then help you with making sure that you have the right information to deal with your case. It's important that we get this information out to the people because there's a huge gap that exists within our legal system. People enter the system and it's like a black hole. They have no idea what to do when arrested, and we're just trying to be there for folks.
I mean, we think about the exonerated five. We all know their story and what happened. Imagine if they would have been able to have a good call back then and have representation so that when they were coerced into making confessions, not knowing what their rights were, that's a difficult thing and a position to be in. For I was looking at this 11-year-old girl who the police put handcuffs on because they said she matched a description of somebody who stole a car or something. And that's a traumatizing situation, to happen to a child. And I know you, when you were young, Jelani, had an instance where you were unjustly arrested.
Yeah, growing up here in New York City, I actually grew up in Queens, grew up in Far Rockaway, moved to Elmira in my teen years, but I always was back and forth to the boroughs. Got arrested for a minor infraction. When they started talking about not going through the train cars?
Oh, right.
So, I was doing other stuff, but I got arrested for going through the train cars.
That's crazy.
And
I've never seen anybody get arrested for that.
Yeah. And I spent time in the precinct, and then they moved me to central booking. Whole process, 12 hours. I'm just like, what is this for? And that was my first arrest. They questioned me about things that were going on, but I always knew, and I learned from growing up, not to say anything to the police. So that was one of the instances where I first saw, the system can really take you, and that's how you can become one of the three. When they talk about 1 out of 3 black males could be arrested in their lifetime, it's so simple for that to happen to anybody.
Right. And now let me ask you, so let's just say, what's the process for Good Call, right? Somebody gets arrested, and then what happens? Or detained?
Yeah, so if anyone is detained, they're brought to a precinct, they're stripped of all their belongings, right? You're given the option to make a call on the dial pad phone. You can call the Good Call hotline yourself, or you can have a loved one call on your behalf. If you remember your loved one's number first, they can call on your behalf. The first thing that happens is that they'll be connected to an attorney. That attorney will inquire where they are. They'll ask to speak to the arresting officer. They'll invoke the rights, and then they'll give you information to make sure you know what's happening in the process.
Okay.
It's important to know that time that you are in the precinct is crucial. That 12 to 24 hours before someone's brought to central booking is where you can receive that limited scope representation that we provide. We want to make sure that folks aren't coerced into signing statements. Police are allowed to lie to you when you're in the precinct.
Wow.
Police are allowed to lie
That's
to you.
wild.
So you have to be able to sign it. If they want you to sign a statement, you have to be able to know I'm not signing anything until I have legal representation. I need to speak to somebody and consult.
Because they're like, just you could sign this, you could go home.
Right.
And then you sign it and don't go home.
You don't
and
go home
you don't
again.
Know, yeah, you don't know what's going on. So does this cost money? Because I know people are listening and they're probably like, okay, I want to call, but lawyers are expensive. I don't want somebody to represent me and then I get slapped with this huge bill.
No, our hotline is completely free. Thank you for folks like Brooklyn, Oregon, and Dr. Rainey here that help us. Our organization, we fundraise for this so that we can make sure that we can provide this resource free of charge to everybody.
Now, Dr. Rainey, how did Good Call get on your radar?
Yeah, Good Call has been doing this work, as Jelani said, since 2016. They've been on our radar. They are one of our long-term partners. When we think about the work that we do in regards to funding nonprofits that are in Brooklyn, that are focused on racial justice, there is nothing more important than the disparate outcomes that happen in our criminal justice system, especially to young people. And I want to say how important Good Call is, because even when you're not doing anything, like you were going between trains, which is nothing, but the truth is that our communities are 5 times more policed than other communities. So not only would you have an opportunity to be to have an interaction with a police officer, you also is going to be more opportunity for you to be unjustly detained or arrested. So organizations like Good Call, like the other organizations that we're giving funding to for Spark, which we're really excited about, are organizations that create a level playing field for Black and brown people in Brooklyn, in communities where they're the most marginalized. And so Good Call has been a friend of ours for a really long time and an organization that we really strongly believe in.
Now, when you give the grant, because you mentioned Spark, and you guys did win the Spark grant.
Yes.
Right? When you talk about the money that they are awarded, that is unrestricted.
Unrestricted.
All right, so explain what that means, because people may not understand when you're applying for grants what unrestricted versus restricted is.
Thank you. I think that, one of the things that I believe in, having run a nonprofit, is that nonprofit leaders need to be able to meet the needs of what their participants need in that moment. And so many times funding, whether it be city funding, foundation funding, is restricted, which means that you can only use it for very specific items. And all of our funding is unrestricted. So this is $100,000 that will allow Jelani and his ED Kim for them to dream and be able to serve people in the moment for what they need. So unrestricted means that we trust you, we've gotten to know you, we know your work, and here is the funding for you to be able to do what you know is best for your community, instead of us telling you what we think is best for your community.
Right, because raising capital is one of the most difficult things. You can have the best product, but being able to, so that's why this is so important. Now, Jelani, can you tell us, since from 2016 until now, how Good Call has grown into what it is today?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When Good Call first started, it was myself and my co-founders at the time, and we were at a co-working space, and it was 4 desks. $0. I was eating a lot of ramen, for real. And we were trying to find out how we can, make this way. And after we had conversations with public defenders, had conversations with individuals that had been arrested, we had our aha moment where it's like, if we can connect them to each other sooner in the process, that could change somebody's case trajectory overall immensely, right? But there's no resources. The city isn't doing this. The city isn't paying for it. How are we going to pay for it? So we literally got on the ground, started talking to people, figuring out where we can actually pitch this product and idea. And it was an investor that, a nonprofit investor that heard about us through the grapevine and gave us our first check of $100,000 in 2016. And myself and our team split that money to figure out how we can continue to fundraise. But what really happened along the way was us being able to prove it out. We were able to really develop a model where our organization not only provides this legal access, but we also transformed into an organization that provides internship support, that provides policy support. So now, thinking about all of these things, we knew that we had a 3-prong approach to really make change. So we needed to find the funding for that. Our model, we were able to fine-tune it to say, Good Call offers structural change, narrative change, and systemic change. And we do this in 3 ways. We have our technology, which is structural change, which we implement into the system. We have our narrative change, which is our internship program, where we work with youth that are from alternative to incarceration programs, giving them civic engagement skills and giving them some community organizing skills in 12 weeks. And then we also have our policy work, where we're working to actually codify access to counsel for youth in New York State. So we want to see this lasting change, and we were able to bring that model fine-tuned to folks, and they were able to digest that because it wasn't just, an organization that was doing random things to support people.
Right.
This was a fine-tuned model that had a proven track record of success.
I want to also point out that, Jelani, at a young age in high school, you started your own business even back then. I have to ask about your background and how you know so much and where you got this entrepreneurial spirit from.
So it's funny. You did your research. Yeah. I know y'all do. I started a organization called NoBones.net. I was in my teen years, an entrepreneur from early jump. I think it's my Capricorn nature.
I'm
January
Capricorn
3rd.
too. Me too. Yeah.
So,
same birthday.
I feel like when I put my mind to things, I really get into the weeds and try to figure it out. And there were no summer jobs out there. So that really sparked my entrepreneurial spirit of like, all right, how can I make a path for myself? So I taught myself Dreamweaver, CS3, and created a website that can sell electronics refurbished to folks in the community. And that's how I started getting I actually got a scholarship for college for that.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. But that was the same year that I actually got arrested for a minor infraction. It was
Imagine
like,
that.
you can do all the good in the world, but you still have the pitfalls that exist as a young black man. My entrepreneurial spirit led me in so many different directions. I had to focus how to use that for good, and that's really what helped me, change that.
And you were only 16 when you got arrested. How did that even affect your mentality and how you even looked at the police? Because sometimes those interactions can make you be like, I don't even want to ever have to deal with any police. I'm not calling you out for anything after what you did to me.
So, to be honest, growing up, we never really.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a real thing.
I grew up in Far Rockaway, New York. I have family members that's been arrested. Nobody's looking to call the police first.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, we see how police act for other communities and how they're there to support other communities. It doesn't exist for us. And I realized that when I got arrested, there was no one for me to call. There was no form of recourse. It was guilty until proven innocent. It wasn't innocent until proven guilty. I felt like I had to figure out how to, talk my way out of it, or, how to call somebody that can defend me. And I realized that there was nobody. My mother's not a certified attorney.
Right.
Like,
she
who am I
didn't know
gonna
what to do?
Who am I gonna call? My mother's Guyanese. She's first. I don't want to call her, let her know that I got arrested. But real talk, it was a moment where I just had to honestly understand that there was nobody there to save you in these instances, and we have to educate ourselves about what to do when these experiences happen.
Right. Now, what if somebody really did commit a crime, right, and they call a good call? Let's just say they really did do something, but you still deserve representation and to know your rights. So does that everything still apply?
Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Full stop.
Okay. Period. Now, Dr. Rainey, got to ask you this. Brooklyn Org, I know people are listening and they're like, I have this, or I do this, I do that. Tell me how, I know you said you work from the ground up and the community really tells you what they need as you're raising money and giving grants to some of these organizations. So for people who are listening and they're like, well, I have this organization, that we've been working in the community for X amount of time, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so you can reach us at brooklyn.org. You can also follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the social media platforms. That's the best way to reach us, to hear more about what we're doing. And we'd love to hear from nonprofits and know the work that they're doing. And we also want to hear from other community members that are interested in how they can get involved and support organizations like Good Call and the other organizations that we support in Brooklyn.
People talk about criminal justice reform all the time, but it's nice to see an organization that you started that's really making a difference. Can you give us an example of how Good Call was able to step in, say, when somebody called you guys?
Yeah, a story that it sits with me for a while. Every time I think about it, is there was a woman who gave birth, and she was in need of postnatal care and went to the hospital. And the hospital ended up calling the police because they suspected that she did something to the baby.
Oh, wow.
And this woman was cuffed in the bed, in the hospital bed, and
God.
police were interrogating her, asking her questions. Luckily, a family member was able to have one of our cards, call, and the lawyer was able to speak to the arresting officer, get them to uncuff her, and to leave the hotel room and stop the interrogation.
That is wild. You're already concerned about your baby, trying to figure out what happened, and then you have the police cuffing you and interrogating you? That's wild.
Yeah. It's the police are relentless, and there's no form of recourse once you're suspected of a crime if you don't know what to do. And that's why we always push making sure that if you don't remember anything else from this interview, don't say anything to the police until you have legal representation. They are allowed to lie to you. They can tell you that you will go home and you won't go home again.
And 833-3 good call. Is that
1-833-346
346
6322.
Is that
So we say 833
okay?
46 6322.
Okay. I want to make sure people know the number in case, God forbid, you need it, but at least you can have it.
So that's why we always say 833 good call. And when you're looking at the phone, calling it from a precinct, the 2 L's are silent. You could just dial in good call. It'll call regardless.
Okay.
But 833 good call. 1-833-346 6322. Y'all gonna put that number on the bottom of the.
We'll have somebody call. No, but that's important. And lastly, I want to say I see that they're also going to be adopting Good Call in other cities too, right?
Yeah, so we're working on that now. We're having conversations with different municipalities because there's 2 ways that this can really work. You know, they can utilize the Good Call technology to actually launch hotlines in their city, or they can work with Good Call to expand the Good Call hotline in their city. So we have 2 routes where we're having conversations with cities to see which route works best. But we know that there are legal deserts that exist. There's some cities that, you know, they don't have as many lawyers as New York does. And there's people that are sitting in jail. There's backlogs that exist because people just have not had their fair day in court, and they haven't had that access to representation. So we're able to actually say, what does it look like for us to partner with these different municipalities to actually launch hotlines to help take care of some of the legal deserts that exist.
How does the police department feel about you?
Oh, we're friends.
Okay.
I'm joking.
Okay.
I am joking.
Okay.
I am joking. You know, it's honestly interesting because there are some police officers that the relationship could be seen as adversarial, but there's some officers that grew up in our community and they understand. They're like, you know, old buddy's saying too much. They go and hand them a Good Call card. Like we've had people that have said that they've gotten a Good Call card from an officer because they realized that what was going on in the precinct shouldn't have been going down, you know. But our relationship with the police is on a touch and go basis. We believe that we are trying to make the process of the arrest fair and provide transparency. There's no reason why it should be a black hole and people have no idea what's going on.
Okay, perfect. Well, Dr. Rainey, any last words regarding Brooklyn Org?
No, I mean, I just want to say that we're really excited. Our Spark Prize is February 25th. It is one of our most heartfelt moments, the best breakfast in Brooklyn. You know, as a Brooklyn girl, you know that Brooklyn is the most populated borough in all of Brooklyn with almost 3 million people. We have 37% of the nonprofits doing amazing work like Good Call. And right now, Brooklyn only gets about 8% of all funding.
Oh, wow.
So one of our challenges and one of the things that we work towards is how do we bring more people into our family and making sure that people have what they need and that organizations like Good Call can expand and can do the good work that they're doing.
All right. Well, I love this. We got a Brooklyn girl. We got a Capricorn. Same birthday as mine. But again, that's Brooklyn Org. That's Good Call. Thank you, Dr. Rainey. Thank you so much, Jelani, for joining us today.
Appreciate the
Got to make sure
opportunity.
this information goes out. Spread the word.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.